Hello, and welcome to the NARSA weekly update for the week commencing Monday, January 11th, 2021. It's Gary Gillen here, and I'm your host for this week's edition. First up is our game segment, and you'll know that last week saw us play just the one game against the Aberdeen Ultimate Fighting Championship team yesterday morning, and the game was a bit of a stroll for an hour or so. Then we didn't seem to be overly interested in keeping our shape or covering our attacking defenders, and they scored, and then we got all nervous and stressed out for the last 30 minutes or so. However, thinking about the game afterwards, obviously we saw the game out for a handsome 2-1 win, but similar to the Hibs game from a couple of weeks ago, when you reflect on the game and the tenseness at the end, it's quite unfounded because there was no real genuine drama, no honest to goodness goalmouth activity that would really truly get us nervous. It was just more mistakes that we were making, maybe a wee bit of game management not quite to our liking, but not certainly in the wars or really truly hanging on at the end. So I believe those days of lack of game management and capitulation, and that's easy for me to say at the end, are kind of gone. I think we're just bearing some of those battle scars that have afflicted us over the last few years. So all that to say that our winning streak in the league is now 15 games. And we also extended our lead at the top of the table for a short period of time, for just over 24 hours, to an incredible 22 points clear at the beginning of January. But as I say, it was only for just over 24 hours, excuse me, and more about that in a wee second. So we do get another breather in midweek again this week, and we prepare for our next game, which is Sunday, January 17th, at 7 a.m. away to Motherwell. Motherwell, as you know, have a new manager in place, and we'll see whether the game is as easy as it was last time we were in Motherwell, where we scored all 6 of the goals in a 5-1 victory, or whether that will be a wee bit tougher as the players try to impress their new boss. And I promise this week the game is genuinely at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I ended up making an inadvertent mistake last week for the Aberdeen game, where I said the kickoff was, I think it was 10:30 or 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, whatever it was I said. And I was literally looking at the Rangers website at the time and doing the GMT to Eastern Standard Time calculation. And then I was corrected shortly afterwards to say, oh no, the game was changed back in December. It's now a regular kickoff time of 3 p.m. in the UK. And I thought maybe I made a mistake. Went back onto the Rangers website and saw that it was still indeed sitting at 4:30 p.m. UK time. So I then got on to the club, to the contacts we have at the club, to say, can you please update your website? Because people are using this to try and educate and entertain our listeners. So they thankfully got that fixed. We had another situation as well where I was calculating the number of games that we had played in each of the competitions to date this year, and the Rangers website also had missing the Kilmarnock 2-0 victory at the end of August. That was also inadvertently missed as well, so that's been corrected too. So I don't want to say don't blame the messenger, but come on, don't blame the messenger, please. So today, as you may or may not be aware, the SPFL forced Mini Celtic to play against COVID Celtic, and although Hibs had made a late request to have some last minute testing done and potentially consideration for the postponement of the game due to the safety concerns, the SPFL slapped them around with the rule book and said if you refuse to play the game, there will be a forfeit and Celtic will be awarded the 3-0 victory. So, okay, the game goes on. I'm fairly certain I wasn't the only one keeping an eye on the score through the app that I use on my phone, which is Live Score, and then they get their typical late goal and you kind of sag a wee bit, but then think, you know what, it doesn't really matter that much, we're so far in front. And then they literally Hibsed it against Hibs. And it was just a brilliant end to a brilliant day where all the negativity that could possibly be going in Scottish football is not coming to our doors for a wee change. And it's so refreshing and so very, very well deserved, I have to say. So the league table is an absolute thing of beauty. Right now, we are 21 points ahead. If they win their 3 games in hand, they will be 12 points behind us as we streak towards 55. Points per game. Based on the last 2 games, we are now at 2.83 points per game, which is a 0.01 increase from last week. And that is honestly mostly due to rounding on the 3rd decimal point, to be very honest. And that mob, they are 2.2 points per game now, down 0.06 from last week as well. So we are getting stronger, they are getting weaker, and that is all she wrote on that. Just another reminder from an RTV perspective, if you know of anyone that needs vouchers for any of the upcoming games, please tell them to get in contact with their president or secretary, and they will get in contact with me and we will make that happen very quickly. We did have another uptake of a couple last week, but it certainly died down from the previous rush that we had with the Celtic game on the weekend before. A quick convention update. Honestly, there's nothing too significant to update. We are still continuing with admin and contract reviews at the back end, or in the background, I should say, and we are getting closer to being able to truly communicate where our destination and location will be for the 150th anniversary and our celebration of the 56th championship that we will win. But just a wee side note, just today we got a wee bit of good news at the end of day today, where we finally received in the mail the deposit check that we had paid to the Park Central Hotel, which was our destination for San Francisco 2020. We cancelled the contract with the hotel last March, and today, on the 11th of January 2021, some 9 months later, we finally received our monies back. So these are the sorts of things that anyone who runs any organisation will know. It's a heavy burden, it's admin, it's angst, it's frustration, it's a bit of a pest overall, to be honest. But I'm very, very glad to say that was the last admin part that we had to truly close off San Francisco 2020, and I'm delighted to say that the money is now in our bank and not Park Central's. So that is tremendous news for everyone involved. From another business perspective, just another reminder of our general meeting that we have on Saturday, January 23rd. Again, if you have anything you want to be raised, positive, negative, inquisitive, anything like that, please by all means do so through your president or secretary, and they can raise it on your behalf at the meeting if you don't attend. So from a feature segment perspective, I have not one, not two, but 3 areas that I wanted to talk to you about this week. A couple of them were promised last week in terms of the soccer schools, and that was extended a wee bit to my Gers, which we'll get to in a wee bit. But the first one I wanted to take you through in extension to what we discussed last week in the NARSA Communications Subcommittee overview. I wanted to talk about the Benevolence Subcommittee, and you might remember from last week that's chaired by myself, and my colleague on that is Alex Black from the Winnipeg Rangers Supporters Club, who is also the NARSA Northwest Regional Director. And as I think I mentioned last week, that we do get inquiries now and again to help various charitable causes and organisations. And for those who attend or have attended our conventions over the past wee while, conventions, remember those that we used to host? You'll know that since around about 2014, we've had very strong ties with the Rangers Charity Foundation through our contact there, Karen Watson. Karen was introduced to the NARSA executive from Jim Maxwell. Jim Maxwell is the past president of Toronto No. 1 Rangers Supporters Club, and was also the North East Regional Director on the NARSA executive for quite some time as well. And as I say, Jim did the introductions. Karen is Jim's niece, and Karen basically took it from there and helped us get way more organised on our charitable events at the convention since 2014. And for 2020, we had a great plan in place to do a peak-to-peak walk in San Francisco, which was going to take a lot of folks participating through various highlights and scenery and locations in and around the San Francisco Bay Area. Unfortunately, obviously, that didn't happen. And for this year, when we were going to Toronto with the Bramalea convention, we had already planned the Teddy Bear Tree Top Trek, which was going to take us out to some kind of hiking and rope bridges across trees very high up and stuff like that. It looked like a tremendous amount of fun, so quite disappointed we didn't get a chance to do that. Alas, neither of the last two could be fulfilled, and we'll have to just look forward to 2022 and see what Karen comes up with for that. So that'll be great. But other than that, from a benevolence perspective, we do try and keep our eyes and ears open, even for things that maybe people don't approach us for. And I just wanted to list through some of the more recent endeavours that we've supported, that we've communicated a wee bit about through social media, maybe through the NARSA list posts and things like that, but more so, just to kind of consolidate the fact that we are doing, I think, great work in the background, and we are doing as much as we possibly can to support, the worldwide Rangers community as well. So back in November, we did purchase 4 of the Simply the Best Night In access tickets, and we then, at the time, depending on where the winners came from, they could have hosted a party to watch it as a club, or raffled it off to an individual member, or whatever it is they decided to do, depending on what the restrictions were that were in place in that location at that time. We did a random draw out of the hat for the access passes, and the draws were made at the club level, and the lucky winners in alphabetical order of the 4 passes were Burlington Rangers Supporters Club, Coburg Rangers Supporters Club, Kearney Rangers Supporters Club, and Windsor Rangers Supporters Club. So just interestingly, 3 supporters clubs from the Ontario region and 1 from northeastern United States, so all very much of an eastern feel to it, and we hope that all the clubs enjoyed the event. Ourselves here in my house, we had a wee mini party with my family from just around the corner, and we did follow the restrictions that were in place for Calgary at the time, and got to watch the show and have a couple of beers and chit chat about how well the event came across and the great things that were accomplished from the event as well. So it was a lovely wee afternoon, and I hope that they do something like that even when things get back to normal, for the more worldwide audience to be able to participate real time and things like that. That was great. The second thing I wanted to mention was Fernando Rickson's latest book called Fernando Rickson, The Final Battle, Life with MND. You might have seen this advertised towards the kind of middle of last year, I believe it was. It was written by Fernando's widow, Veronica Rickson, and I believe Vincent is also his agent, Vincent De Vries, or De Vries maybe, is his last name. And they had approached us to say if there was anything we could do to help in terms of advertising and maybe even purchasing some copies. So what we had discussed and agreed to do was to purchase a book for all 34 active clubs within the NARSA membership. So the way that we did that was, we had said, instead of us taking receipt of all the books and then distributing it from one place, we had said, listen, the best thing to do is for each club to go and purchase the book on behalf of your club and then provide us with the receipt, and you'll be reimbursed as well. So if your club has not yet done so, please follow the instructions that were sent later last year from Sandra Hawthorne, the NARSA secretary, to purchase your copy for the club, and then you at least can have a read at that and circulate it around your membership as well, and or you can also encourage members to buy it as well. We did have quite a wee bit of dialogue. The reason it ended up coming out a wee bit later than we were hoping was that we had some dialogue with Vincent himself to say, listen, we need a wee bit of an easier path to be able to get these books from the UK over to the States. and to Canada. And what they did was they ended up going to their supplier and saying, look, we might have a market here. You have to do something that's more appropriate and better for both countries. There's slightly different postal requirements or restrictions, I guess you could say, for both countries. And they came back with that, so it's not a lot of money for delivery to either the States or to Canada. So if you are interested in purchasing a copy and you're on these shores, please do so. You can go to fernandothebook.com. That's fernandothebook.com for more information. And if you need any information from a NARSA club perspective, please by all means reach out to myself or Sandra Hawthorne, and we'll get you the details that you need to be able to get that book for your club in case it maybe got missed. The next thing is the Sammy Cox Memorial Garden Committee. Late last year, a fellow called Grant McLean, who's a member of the Irvine Valley Loyal Rangers Supporters Club back home, and his dedicated team had reached out to us to see if we would be able to help support the great work that they've been doing to honour one of their own with an amazing garden and a commemorative wall with scribed bricks, and there's going to also be a bust of Sammy there as well, and this is all going to be built within the grounds of Darvel Juniors FC in the village of Darvel. And we had discussed and agreed as NARSA that we will certainly be taking a brick and we'll be working very hard to promote this event. As most of you will probably know, Sammy Cox was a big supporter of NARSA over the years, was a very close friend with one of our former presidents, John Miller. And it's really, truly a story of traversing continents, but strengthening the bond that is the Rangers family at the very same time. And for those that have seen our flag, our NARSA banner that has been displayed, it's still displayed at Ibrox right now. Sammy Cox is literally front and centre on that as well. So we're doing our little bit on that. And we will be sending out the information to all presidents and secretaries to see if your club wants to take an individual brick as well. I believe an individual brick goes from either 50 or 70 pounds, and that would obviously be converted into dollars in your currency. And you can get either 2 lines or 4 lines on the brick with 16 characters on each line. And as I say, NARSA are taking one, and we're going to try and help spread the word on that as well. So we will put more information on our social media once we have that out there. And if anyone can support that, I know that Grant and team would be very, very pleased to receive your support. We've seen, I don't know that I'm allowed to share it or not, but we've seen a work in progress overview of the clay portion of the bust, which is almost done and ready to be sent for bronzing, and it looks utterly out of this world. They've done such a fantastic job on that. So any support that anyone can give them, please by all means get in touch and spread the word as well. And to close off on the Benevolence, for those that maybe didn't know, Ian McCallum is a member of the Los Angeles True Blues Rangers Supporters Club and also happens to be in a bit of a famous band called Stiff Little Fingers. And what Ian did there just late last year was he covered the Ibrox Disaster 1971 song and did that for charity. So all proceeds from that are going to the Rangers Supporters Erskine Appeal. Oh my word. The Rangers Supporters Erskine Appeal. And if you can support that, it's round about $1 for a download to support that. And you can download it from Apple Music, from Amazon, and most likely from other regular music-y, downloady type places that people are probably more well versed on than I am. But very, very good cause, very, very much appreciated that Ian would take the time to do that, and it's brilliant. The version of the song is absolutely fantastic as well. So hopefully, if you can, please support it by downloading, and if you can't and would just like to spread the word on that, that's absolutely fantastic as well. So lots of work going on in the background in terms of benevolence, and we're always happy to help where we can. It's not always monetary help. It could just be spreading the word or lending our name to it and those sorts of things. So as promised last week, we met with the soccer schools, the lead of the soccer schools, Gary Gibson, and Ian Greer, also from the Soccer Academy, to to discuss how and where NARSA could assist Rangers in further widening their net in North America. And I say further purposefully because we have been in dialogue with the guys now for probably well over 2 years, I think, and just trying to make some local introductions. We have a very heavy presence, for example, with the Calgary Rangers is what they're called here, and the relationship was already established before we had even gotten involved, but just to help with a wee bit more dialogue and make sure that they know that they have local support for anything that they need. So we've been working on that, and for anybody who's followed the soccer schools expansion across the world, we'll see that they've been very, very aggressive and very, very active in trying to make sure that they can maximise the partnerships that are out there. So we are going to take that to the next level now, and we've agreed to organise a Zoom call with key NARSA club representatives on Sunday, February 7th at noon Eastern Standard Time. And details will be sent out about the Zoom call. Excuse me, the invite will be sent out. And what Gary Gibson and Ian will do that day is take us through their specific presentation that they would like to share with us and what they hope to achieve with more localised relationships and dialogue and communication via the NARSA clubs. So even if you don't have any knowledge of local clubs in your area, I would still like to encourage as many people to participate as possible, as it's quite fascinating to see how they are growing, to see what they are trying to do, and to try and actively support it. You never know who you might bump into. You never know who might know someone else who's involved with a local football club, and they might be benefited by being involved, or at least having some cursory dialogue with the folks from the soccer schools. And I know that Gary would be very keen to do that as well. So we'll have that organisation of the session out possibly this week, maybe the week after, I think, and then we can take it from there. Happy to answer any questions at all on that as we move forward. But as I say, we're stepping up our support of the soccer schools. At the same meeting, we were also happy to chat again with Natalie Nairn, the Partnership and Projects Manager from the Commercial and Marketing Department at Rangers, about MyJers, and Natalie is now going to attend the same meeting on February 7th to go over progress to date on the MyJers campaign and provide us all with an update as to where things are at and where NARSA can help get involved and where the money is going, and to garner more importantly, more feedback from overseas bears about some of the things that are missing, some of the things that could be embellished or enhanced a wee bit more to make MyJers more appropriate and more appealing for fans overseas as well. So as part of that we've also managed to broker that the club will be providing us with a number of MyJers memberships for raffle, for a draw, for giveaway for NARSA members in good standing as well. So very, very happy at this very generous donation from the club, and we will work out how best to get them distributed. I think what we'll try and do is get a bit of interest in it before the February 7th meeting, do a bit of a draw, get some memberships out there, and then we'll do some live on the meeting itself as well and see how that goes, try and get a bit of fun with that. But yeah, getting some memberships for free is always best for us, and if we can then turn that into ongoing, genuine dialogue and support for MyJers to expand the membership in that as well, that would be terrific. So those were the three main updates that I wanted to put forward for this week. In closing, now and again we get approached by various RFC official suppliers and to basically help to see where NARSA could maybe help them sell their wares, if you like, or advertise their wares at the very least. And prior to James Bisgrove's time with the club, it was quite haphazard, quite inconsistent, the way that we used to get approached, and we never really quite took up anybody on their offers or really got meaningful dialogue. Not that I can recall anyway. I might be proven wrong after the fact. But since James has come in and the team has been more robust, you can see not only the growth in the partnerships, but in the professionalism and the way that they've been presented to us, the way that you can see that they're going to benefit the club and the diverse direction that the club are taking on that. And to that end, we were approached in December, not just under a month ago, I guess, by a fellow called Ian Carrollton from Kilts for You, who are, if you don't know already, Rangers official Highland wear licensee. and just asking, the general question: is there anything that that you think we should talk about as a NARSA North America is a market that we would like to find out whether it's a real thing and it's something that we should invest some time in trying to expand the reach to. So with that said, both Brian Campbell, NARSA VP, and myself are meeting with Ian on Wednesday morning of this week to see where we can help lend support from a NARSA perspective. So we will provide an update on that at next week's weekly update. And in the meantime, if you want to see any more information about the kilts for you can go to rangerskilt.co.uk. That's rangerskilt.co.uk. And if anybody is ever approaching us, essentially what we're trying to do now is get a wee bit more formal and a wee bit more structured in terms of what our response would be when an existing partner. And then the first thing we would do if they came and approached us directly is we would double check with the club that they are indeed an existing partner. And once that's confirmed, we're basically asking 3 questions. How can NARSA help? Is there likely to be a market for the services or products that this company are in the business of providing? And is it good for Rangers? And the last question is kind of answered, I suppose, in terms of them being an official supplier of the club. However, we just want to make sure and double check that we are working hand in glove with the club on those sorts of things. So we can provide any support from advertising our stuff on their stuff on our various communication channels to help raise awareness. But what I'd like to get involved in is something a wee bit more defined, a little bit more purposeful, so that we can entice our membership to become more engaged, for example, by special delivery offers, by introductory discounts or some introductory competitions for some free merchandise or a loyalty discount or something like that, where NARSA gets something, the vendor gets something, and Rangers, of course, which is the most important part, gets something as well. So that we're rewarding everyone and we have a joint commitment between the vendor themselves and between us as well. So we'll see where the kilts conversations go, but just know that in the background we are doing our best to be more formal, more professional, more polished and more purposeful in what we're trying to get from the vendors in terms of mutual benefit and things like that as well. So again, just a wee bit more information on how we are structured and how we're doing things. So here's hoping, Bears, for another 3 points on Sunday, and that will take us to 16 wins in a row. And I'd just like to say, we're cautiously optimistic that things are going to go our way this season. The facts don't lie, the results don't lie, and the stats don't lie. But I'd like to combine a couple of Stevie G's lines from the kind of recent past here and put my own spin on it a wee bit just as I sign off for this week. We haven't won anything yet, we know that. However, we've earned the right to be where we are right now, and we've also very much earned the right to enjoy it. We're definitely not taking anything for granted. Absolutely we're not. But let's just enjoying ourselves right now, and let's just continue to pray that continues long into the future as we close in on 55 here, Bears. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to listen, and please do share this with anybody that you think would be interested. Take care, Bears. All the very best. Cheerio.